Okay, let's talk about how to build the fundamentals into our swing. So quick review, fundamentals are going to be our low point, our face, our path, our contact, which is primarily the combination of those three things. It's getting our low point, our face, and our path correct. Normally we make good contact if we do those three things. And then it's also distance control. And we want to learn those things in that order. We want to learn to have good low point control first, aka we want to learn to hit the ball first and then interact with the ground afterwards. We want to learn to not hit the ball thin or to not chunk the golf ball, so we're making solid contact and we're interacting with the earth properly. Then we want to learn to play with our angle of attack, which is basically how much are we hitting down or how little are we hitting down, how much more level are we hitting through the golf ball with that same type of low point, because we still want to hit the ball first and then the ground second always, but we want to play with our angle of attack because sometimes we want to hit the ball lower, sometimes we want to hit it medium height, or sometimes we want to hit it high depending on the shot we need. So we're still going to be playing with our low point, but we're going to be playing with how much we're hitting down versus how little we're hitting down as we're learning that low point. Next, we're going to work on our face and our path. The face is the face coming in open, closed in this direction, or are we squaring it up by the time we get to impact over here? Path being, are we swinging to the right? Are we swinging to the left? Or are we swinging towards the target? Because those things are going to affect the direction the ball flies. Our face is primarily going to determine the direction the ball initially starts flying. If the face is open to the right, the ball is going to start flying to the right. If the face is closed to the left, the ball is going to start flying close to the left. If the face is square, it's going to start flying pretty much on target line. Now the path relative to the club face is going to determine the direction the golf ball curves. If we swing relative to this club face, if we swing right of our club face, the ball is going to draw from right to left. If we swing left of this club face, the ball is going to slice from left to right. If we swing in line with this club face, the ball is going to fly straight with wherever that face and that path was aimed. So by learning what our path is and what our face is and learning to change those things up, by learning to hit both draws and fades, hooks and slices, in varying degrees of them, well, what are we going to do? We're going to learn a few different skills. Everybody probably has a natural shot shape. Most of us are going to be slicers. The most common thing in golf you're going to notice with a golf swing is a more open face, a player who swings from the outside and swings to the left in this direction. The open face and swinging to the left makes the ball want to slice off to the right. Some people are going to have the opposite problem though. Some people are going to swing in to out and close down the face and hit more of a draw or more of a hook this way. Everybody's going to have their own natural shot. The key is to learn to do the opposite one for a few different reasons. If we learn to do the opposite shot shape, because we already have the natural one, we know we can do that. If we can learn to do the opposite, what are we going to do? Well, let's say we're the slicer. The slicer, again, is the player who swings from the outside and swings across the golf ball to the left, and they hold the face open through the golf ball, meaning the face is not closing down like this, the face is getting held open. Well, if we learn to do the opposite, what are we doing? We're learning now to swing from the inside and swing to the right, and we're learning to close the face down in this direction through the golf ball, which means now we've learned to change our path dramatically. We've learned to change our release. And if we get good at it, because we can eventually learn to draw the ball onto the target or fade the ball on the target, what else have we done? Well, we've learned a new shot shape. So when we need to hit a draw, we can hit a draw. When we need to hit our fade, we can use our natural swing. But we've also bookended it. We've learned both sides of the spectrum. If I know what it is to hit a slice, and I know what it is to hit a hook, well, I also now know, or at least I will know, what it is to hit a straight shot. Because if I can get really good at hitting the slice and really good at hitting the hook, eventually, once I can learn to do both with some degree of mastery, I can start to tone each one of them down. I can hit less of a slice so it becomes more subtle in this direction. And then I can hit less of a hook so it becomes more subtle in this direction. And eventually I can work in from both ends of the spectrum, from the big hook and the big slice, and I can work it in tighter and tighter and tighter until eventually I learn to get this club on plane. I learn to square up the club face for a straight shot, and now I'm also going to learn to hit a straighter shot. But the really cool thing along the way when I do that is my swing's going to get more neutral. Why does that happen? Well, because if I'm the slicer, I'm probably lifting the club to the outside. I'm getting the face open, and I'm swinging from the outside to the left. If I'm the player who's more of a hooker, I'm probably getting this club to the inside, or I'm moving it to the inside. I'm swinging from that inside position out to the right, and I am closing the face down. If I'm going to learn to live somewhere between those two, I'm going to start taking the club more on plane, maybe not perfectly on plane, but it's going to be more on plane than one play or the other. It's going to start getting more in between, and it's definitely going to come down much more on plane. And instead of having a closed face like the hooker or an open face like the slicer, I am now learning to square up my club face, which means my swing or my technique is automatically developing good habits because of the ball flight that I'm hitting. So if you learn both ends of the spectrum, both hooks and both slices, and you work your way closer to a straight shot, you're also going to develop good technique along the way. So you're developing the skill of controlling your face, the skill of controlling your path. You're building an athletic inclination towards golf because you're learning to change your swing and make it match up at the bottom. And you're also working to neutral, which gives you a better technique. So you're getting a lot of benefits by playing that game of Goldilocks of working inward and developing both ends of the spectrum with hooks and slices and working to the middle. After we get good at that, then we're going to play with distance control. Then we're going to say, okay, let's first learn how far we hit each club. If we hit a relatively straight shot, it can curve a little bit from left to right. We get a little fade or a little draw, whatever's more natural to you. But you're not hitting giant hooks or slices anymore. Once you're hitting it somewhat straight, then we can say, okay, when I hit my full 7-iron and I hit it solid, how far does it travel? Maybe you hit it 140 or 160 or 180, however far you hit it, we'll figure that out. And then you can say, okay, that's my stock yardage with that club. And you do that for every club in your bag. You do it with your wedges, short irons, long irons, woods, and you figure out how far you hit each club. Once you learn how far you hit each club, well, first off, you have tools in your bag to go play around the golf. You have some tools to play course management. You know when you're 150 yards away, it's going to be your 9-iron because that's how far you hit your 9-iron, or it's the closest club, and it's the proper club for the situation at hand. So you can start choosing the right tools when you're playing, and that's obviously very important. Then once you learn how far you hit each club, then we can get good at distance control. First, hitting it solid and finding out how far we hit it's the first step in distance control. But then we can say, okay, how far can I hit my 9-iron if I hit it as hard as humanly possible? If I swing 100% all out and I hit it solid, how far does it go? It might normally travel 150 yards, but if you swing all out, you might hit it 157 yards when you hit it as far as you possibly can, which is good because if you're 153 yards away, now you have the choice. You can hit the 8-iron soft, or you can hit the 9-iron harder and get it to the flag, and you have a new club at your disposal, and you know how to add a little bit of distance, and you know exactly what the cap of that distance is, so you're not choosing the wrong club. And then also we can go the opposite way. We can learn to take off distances. Learning to take off 5 yards, 10 yards, 15 and 20 yards off of each club, or at least with our mid irons, our short irons, and our wedges. With our long irons and woods, maybe not that much. Maybe only taking off 5 or 10 is useful there. But learning to take off some yardage with each club, well, that's going to be able to dial us in. Because again, let's say we have a 150-yard shot. That's a pretty easy choice. We're just hitting the 9-iron, assuming there's no wind. But what if we have 142 yards? Well, instead of stepping on the pitching wedge, maybe it's better that we hit a soft 9-iron. Or maybe it's a back pin or there's some wind in our face. Instead, we'd rather hit the 8-iron. Or if we're trying to keep it low underneath trees, maybe we're hitting the 7-iron. And if we hit a full shot, we're going to hit over the green. But if we know how to take off 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 yards, then we can hit an extra club or two, hit it softer, and make sure the ball's not traveling too far, which is a very important skill to learn because golf is a game of control. It's a game of controlling how far the ball goes left or right, and it's also a game of controlling how far forward or back the golf ball goes in this direction. If we get the left to right good and we get the front to back good, aka we get our direction good and we get our distance control good, well, we're going to hit good golf shots. So learning to hit the ball further, our normal distance, and learning to take off distance is going to make us a very complete golfer, and it's a very, very important skill to learn. So those are going to be the main fundamentals we're focusing on. From there, then we can play with combinations. Then we can learn to hit low shots, medium shots, and high shots, draws and fades, and we can do combinations of those. We can hit high draws, low fades, low draws, high fades, medium draws, medium fades, high straight, low straight, medium straight, every type of combination. That would be called 9-box. Basically, imagine if there was a giant box right here, and then just like the old show, The Brady Bunch, there was 9 individual boxes inside of that giant box where there's a top left corner, a top right corner, bottom right, bottom left, and then there's a cross in the middle, so it's completing all 9 boxes in this direction, and you're hitting shot shapes in each one of those. The top right box is the one you're trying to hit your high draw into. Top left, you're hitting a high fade into it. Bottom right, you're hitting the low hook. And bottom left, you're hitting the low slice into it. And the other ones you can fill in the details. And getting good at hitting both the trajectory you're looking for and the curvature you're looking for. That's going to give you an even higher degree of control and skill, because now you have to control your face, your path, and you have to add your angle of attack into the equation in order to make all those things work. So that gives you another level of skill, which is what a lot of good amateur players, college players, and professionals are going to start to get very good at. Then once you want to get to the level of mastery, which if you can do all these things, by the way, you can become a scratch golfer even if you don't have excellent technique. Just by learning these things, you're going to have the skill of a scratch golfer or even better. The final skill you can add in there of combinations is adding distance control. You can hit your high draws and your low fades and try and hit them a specific distance. Again, if we use the 9-iron, for example, well, your normal straight shot might go 150 yards, but now try and hit your 9-iron 145 yards while hitting the high draw. So you have to hit it a little softer and make the ball go high draw. Then try and hit your 9-iron 130 yards, but hit the low fade in there. Then hit your 7-iron 160 yards, which is going to be a little bit softer most likely for you, but hit the low draw in there. Or hit the high straight shot. Learn to change the height and the curvature and correlate that to a distance, and now you're learning what it is to be a masterful ball striker. And if you learn all those skills, you really don't even need to work on your technique really in order to get good at all those skills. When I was a kid, I didn't get any lesson. I really didn't even get my first lesson thinking about it until I was about 15 years old. And I started playing golf when I was about 5 years old. I never had a lesson, and I learned every single one of those skills all on my own, just watching my friends hit shots, trying to imitate them, trying to force myself to hit these curvatures. And I eventually learned to hit them, and I was a scratch golfer by the time I was 15 years old, and I had never gotten a lesson. So you can definitely become a scratch golfer, or at least have the ability to hit the golf ball in terms of becoming a scratch golfer ability-wise, if you get good at learning your low point, learning your angle of attack, learning your face and your path by hitting hooks and slices, then playing combinations of them and learning your distance control. If you can do all those things, that's really what it means to be a good golfer and to have a good golf swing. Remember this quote. It's going to serve you very well in your golfing career. Ben Hogan said, "The true judge of your golf swing is the flight of your golf ball." And at the end of the day, that's ultimately what matters, is how are you moving the golf ball through space? And if you're hitting the golf ball the way you want and you have command of how high it's flying, the direction it's curving, the amount it's curving, the distance it's traveling, aka the flight of the ball, well, then you have a masterful golf swing. So focusing on these things is what's going to make you a truly good golfer. So they're the main things to focus on. The last thing I'll say is this. Again, treat it like the game of Goldilocks when you're first learning these skills. Learn to do the extreme end of the spectrums and then work your way inward. When you work on low point first, learn to hit as hard down on the golf ball as you can just to give yourself the best chance of getting your club underneath the golf ball and interacting with the earth. After you get good at making solid contact and you can hit the earth every time, then we can learn to start shallowing out our angle of attack and be less extreme with it. When we're learning to hit hooks and slices, hit a giant 40 or 50 yard hook. Hit a giant or 40 or 50 yard slice just to guarantee you're moving your path enough and moving your face enough, and then eventually we can work inward to where we have the hot porridge, we have the cold porridge, and we can work into where that porridge is just right, and we're hitting more of a straight shot. So play the game of Goldilocks, because that's the best way to learn what the extreme end of the spectrums are, which means you can work into neutral, and that's a really good way of going about it. So that's why all these fundamentals are important. That's what we're going to talk about in subsequent videos, and that's the way I want you to approach it.